Hey, what's up everybody? It's Michael from the Scavengers. I'm going to be doing a culture shock for you guys today. I'm going to be reviewing Planet Coaster, which is one of my favorite games. I picked it up on Steam a few weeks ago. Put probably, I don't know, 40-ish hours into it so far. It's pretty fun. I really enjoy it, personally at least. I was always really into those types of games, the theme park simulators. I was always really into Roller Coaster Tycoon way back when it came out. Man, I'm dating myself, aren't I? Even though I'm really not that old. But yeah, I mean, I was really into those types of games, like the original Roller Coaster Tycoon games, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. I got really huge into. I even got back into it probably about a year ago. So Planet Coaster is a theme park simulator, like I said, designed by the same company that made Roller Coaster Tycoon, Frontier Developments, and in my mind, it is a spiritual successor to Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, as opposed to Roller Coaster Tycoon World, which I've heard is pretty bad. Not going to get into that, though. Not this video, at least. So one of my favorite things about this game is just how pretty it is. And I know I use the word pretty in a lot of my single-player videos, but this game is just, it's beautiful. It's very easy to see how much time went into the actual graphics and graphics processing for this game. Everything is unique. You don't really have, all the scenery looks great. You have unique trees. You have hundreds of customization options for foliage, flora, you can even have some. I think you can have custom supports as well for roller coaster rides, just roller coasters in general. You can really just allow your creativity to run wild in this game. It's wonderful, honestly. You can do whatever you want. You can make a roller coaster as short or as long or as tall or as fast as you want. And it's really easy to do. The mechanics and the controls are really easy to get used to. Everything is laid out for you in a toolbar at the bottom of your screen. You've got, scenery, you've got roller coasters, or I think it's labeled coasters. Then you've got terrain. I think it's over in the bottom corner or whatever. It's all just really easy to use, and it's all really, really fun to learn how to use it all. I know when you first start building roller coasters and everything, especially if you came in from using games like Roller Coaster Tycoon or other games of that sort, it's much more akin to No Limits if you've used No Limits, or of No Limits, No Limits is more like a roller coaster building simulator. Again, story for another video. Everything is much more realistic when it comes to building roller coasters. So instead of, with Roller Coaster Tycoon, where you had, you said, oh, I want the roller coaster to bank here, and just had, a portion of a track that would just, This one you can actually gradually bank the ride in a way that you would actually see in real life. And I really like that. I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. It's teaching more people how to properly design roller coasters. I know way back when I was much younger, before I went off to college, I had this grandiose idea that I really wanted to be a roller coaster designer, that I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to go to school to learn how to design roller coasters. And so I would always play these games. I'm I want to build the most realistic coaster I can. And when you're given as much control as RIT, that's the school I went to. When you're given as much control in Roller Coaster Tycoon, you can't really do that. And with Planet Coaster, you can, and it's great. So you can, gradually level out in drops. You can make much more realistic airtime hills. You can make, in many ways, you can actually even make the ride more intense. If you want to have a ride that's, coming up a curve that's got a bank that's basically perpendicular to the ground, and then you want to, suddenly go the other way, you can do that. You can do that basically all in one track piece. Now, one thing you do have to be wary of is that the game's programming allows for much more realistic rides, but at the same time, you still need to factor in, how much force you're putting into the customers and the riders on your coasters. Again, going back to Roller Coaster Tycoon, when you had these roller coasters built, you'd be putting upwards of, like, depending on how fast you were going or how fast the ride was going, you could be putting in upwards of 5, 7 Gs into the customer, which is not good. Whereas with this game, if you hit 5 in general, you're moving pretty quickly. And that's another thing that I really like. Again, going back to the more realistic aspect, and the game can give you as the player more realistic stats and real-time information and data on your ride. So if you don't know, how fast your train is going around, a huge banked curve, then you can, in your editor, you can actually click on a button and it'll say, okay, so here is a heat map basically of your speed throughout the track. It's a really awesome tool to use, so you're not putting too much into your ride and just making it go, well, off the rails. Excuse the pun. Another thing that's really great about this game is that it does have a sandbox mode. So if you don't want to, dabble in the scenarios and in the challenges, you can just open up a new sandbox map, and just screw around. So if you want to open up a park that's, literally just roller coasters, nothing else, you can do that. You can do whatever you want. Or if you want to, make a park as elaborate as Disney World, you can do that as well. You can actually build the castle, you can build all the rides, you can build all the scenery around it, and you can do whatever. Again, going back to you can just allow your creativity to do whatever you want for you. Now, the last thing that I really like about this game is the soundtrack. In much of a way that The Sims has a really great soundtrack, like when you're opening up build mode or you're opening up buy mode in The Sims, and it starts playing that music that kind of makes you want to keep playing in that mode. It's the same thing with Planet Coaster, whereas if at random points in the game, certain trigger actions, whatever, the soundtrack will start playing, and the music is very, very indicative of like hard work, and the soundtrack promotes creativity, and it's great. It's fully written and recorded by a couple of guys by the name of J.J. Ibsen and Jim Guthrie, and the music is great. It's mostly it's like kind of acoustic. It's a little bit ambient, and it allows you to get into a kind of mood that says, "Oh, I want to keep building," or "Oh, I want to keep playing. I want to see what happens here." I really like this. This makes me feel like I should keep building. It makes me feel like I should, keep doing what I'm doing here, because I want to figure out, where the next track piece should go in relation to the coaster, like how the next curve of a path should end up hitting, this certain ride or this certain shop. So those were basically all the pros of this game. Unfortunately, I am a little bit biased just because I do enjoy games like this where you can just jump in. You don't really have a set goal. You can just play. But along with that, as you're playing, there are a few cons. There are a few negative points that I have noticed, at least. And if there are a few more, feel free to comment below saying what I missed. There is a little bit of a steep learning curve. It does, as I mentioned earlier, it is easy to get used to using all the controls and everything, but when you want to get really good with it, it's kind of difficult. I know that I like to build things and just see how they work and just see how they look in the world, but sometimes my creativity doesn't want to work, and I don't really have patience to sit around for, a couple hours and spend the time to learn how to use every single control or every single mechanic that allows me to build a huge, gigantic castle or whatever, a huge, gigantic fort. So along with having a steep learning curve, it is time consuming. It is a time consuming game, and it's very involved too. If you want to play seriously, I suggest you probably have at least 1, 2, maybe even 3 hours, depending on what you want to do in the game, what goals you've set for yourself, or how long you think something will take you. If you really want to spend the time to get something looking good, then you have to spend the time to get it looking good. Otherwise, things might not work right, or things might not go as you planned, or maybe even it just doesn't look exactly the way you want it to. And that goes the same way for, building the structures as well. So, like, if you want to build a castle, you have to actually spend the time to find every piece in the menu, and then place every piece, like place the skeleton on the ground, and make sure you know basically more or less what you actually want at that moment, or else either you're going to get derailed, or it's just not going to look the way you want it to, or things are just going to take a while to do. That's one thing that I don't like about this game, is that while creativity plays a huge factor, on the other hand, creativity plays a huge factor. So if you're not super creative, and if you're not really able to spend the time or have the patience to build these structures and build these coasters the way you want them to, the game's gonna come out a little bit boring to you. Another thing that's kind of aggravating, at least, well, not really aggravating so much as annoying. You do have to actually manage your staff. You have to manage your staff. You have to manage, what they're doing at a given time, where they're patrolling, even down to your shop hands, like your stall hands, like people selling the food, people selling the drinks, the people selling the souvenirs. You need to make sure that you have the right amount of staff for the size of your park. You need to make sure they're actually paid the right rates. And if they don't have the right amount of pay, then they start to get angry. They start to get irritated at you. Even sometimes they start to quit. And when your employees start to quit and start to feel like they're not being treated right as employees, or being treated right as someone who works at this park, it makes your park look bad. You even start to lose a few customers, and that does make things a little bit aggravating, because you're doing as much as you can to keep customers enthralled with your park, whether that be building more rides or building better scenery, and then next thing you know, oh, Joseph blah blah blah, the janitor, has quit. Well, that's wonderful. So it's kind of hard to manage everything at once. I know sometimes I have a one-track mind where, if I get involved with something, I'm going to do that until I just want to stop. Normally in this game, I spend that time on making sure all the rides look good, all the rides are, rideable. They're exciting to the customers. And I don't really focus on what actually happens behind the scenes. Like, I don't really focus on how well my employees are doing, how well things are working out, like whether the fact that, there are enough trash cans around the park. One other thing that does annoy me, at least, again, is you do have to have scenery. Like, you can't just go and, like, if you want to have a park that really works, that you don't just want to, have a roller coaster fuck around park. You do actually have to have, trees around. You do have to have, water features. You need to have buildings. And that's kind of the part where the game loses me, because, again, I'm not super creative or super patient when it comes to all that stuff. So I don't really feel like I want to spend the time to have all of that stuff in the park. Like, I mean, I'm playing this game because I want to play it. I'm not playing this game because I want to build Disney World. All in all, I'd say this game is great. If you love building things, if you like being creative, if you liked Roller Coaster Tycoon, those games, then I would seriously suggest looking to pick up this game. It's a little expensive at $40, but I mean, I think it's $40 well spent. Overall, I'd give the game, were I to give it stars, I'd say probably 4 out of 5. It's a solid game. It does have its shortcomings, but all in all, it's great. It's a beautiful game to look at. It's a beautiful game to listen to. The ambience is great, but obviously, like I mentioned, it's very involved. It's very time consuming to get into. There is a pretty steep learning curve, and you need to make sure that you're truly managing your park, which a lot of people don't want to do. Sometimes even including myself. You just don't want to spend the time and the patience making sure that all of your 10 employees are your 4 janitors, your 3 security guards, your 2 mechanics, whatever, are happy. And that's a really weird way to say that. All right, well, that's basically all I have to say about Planet Coaster. Like I said, it's a good game, has its shortcomings, and I'm very happy with it. So hopefully this review will inspire you to go and pick it up yourself. All right, well, I'm going to sign off here. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
Hasta la vista, baby.